پرۆگرامی ئایلپ پرۆگرامێکی سەفارەی ئەمریکیە ساڵانە 150 گەنج لە زانکۆ و 150 گەنج لە های سکوڵ و 12 منتۆر ئەبات بۆ ویلایەتە یەکگرتووەکانی ئەمریکا بۆ ئەکسچێنج پرۆگرامێک اینجا ئەم پرۆگرامە هەموو پرۆگرامەکە بە هەموو شتێکیەوە سپۆنسەر و فەند کراوە لەلایەن سەفارەی ئەمریکیەوە یعنی هیچ پارێک نایی کە تۆ ڕێبوون پرۆگرامە و ئەگەڕێتەوە من خۆم بەشداری پرۆگرامەکەم کردووە ساڵی 2017 بەس من لە های سکوڵ اینجا ئەم پرۆگرامە لەلایەن ڕێکخراوی وۆرڵد لەرنینگەوە دانراوە سەر بە سەفارەیە بەس لەگەڵ وۆرڵد لەرنینگە ئیشەکە دانراوە و 5 جامعە لە سەرانسەری ویلایەتە یەکگرتووەکان بەشداری لەم پرۆگرامەیە ئەکا بۆ جامعە یعنی بۆ ئەوانەی کە لە جامعەن 5 زانکۆ بەشداری تیا کردووە و یارمەتی پرۆگرامەکە گۆڵی پرۆگرامەکە چییە؟ هەر حەزەکەی یەکەمەوە بە ئینگلیزی لە بەرەوەی ئەگەر ئینگلیزی نەزانان ناشتان بڵێگەن سە باشترە بە ئینگلیزیەوە. Goals are they select a diverse cohort of undergraduate students, Iraqi, so there are people from all over Iraq, people from Kurdistan, all parts of Kurdistan, and all other parts of Iraq too. Unfortunately, there is a possibility that this year there are less people from all the other parts of Iraq because of the situation we all know. But please try to apply as much as possible because you probably have the most chance this year. And also, it lays a strong foundation for developing your modern-day skills through your pre-departure activities that I'll be talking about in a bit, your OPAL and your pre-departure orientation and all these activities. It provides a program that equips students with the skills needed to become an effective leader, a citizen that's useful for their community. It makes you have respect for the diversity in your community. It makes you an active person, and it allows you to believe in yourself that you can make a change and that you can actually do something in your community because you really can. And it provides you with a lot of networking. For example, what I'm doing now is because of ILEP. All the networks I'm forming through all the activities I'm doing now are through ILEP. And it provides you with the knowledge of your full potential. When you go to ILEP, you realize just how capable you are. Eligibility criteria for you to apply to this program for undergraduate students. You must be at least 18 years old, but not any more than 24 years old by July 1st, 2020. And you cannot fake it. They will know. I assure you that they will know you cannot fake anything in your application. Even if it might have been done the years before, maybe one person or two, this is no longer happening. They have omitted so many people over the last few years because of fake documents in their applications. Fake age, fake university class. So for example, if you're the first stage or second, third, you're allowed. But if you're fourth stage and you fake it, they will know. So don't fake it. And you have to have proficiency in English speaking, writing, and listening. This doesn't mean that your English has to be perfect. Don't confuse this. But you need to know enough English, for example, to understand what I'm saying right now, to understand what the people there will be saying, and to be able to communicate with other people in ILEP, Americans, Arabs, other Kurds, Christian Kurds, communication. So you need to be able to talk well, and understand well, and write well, because your application consists of writing as well. And you need to be a current student in the first, second, or third year. Not fourth, not fifth, none of those. Also, I don't know if there are any students from UKH or American University in Slemani, and I don't know about American University in Duhok if they have foundation, but my point is, if you are foundation level, you're English level, you're not considered first stage, so you're not eligible to apply yet. The same goes for the American University in Slemani. They have APP. If you're APP, you're not considered undergraduate first stage. so you're not eligible to apply. And at an Iraqi university or college, you cannot be studying outside. You have to be studying here at an Iraqi university. You have to be good at your academic standing, so you kind of have to have good grades, although it doesn't really depend on that. If you have everything else that's good, and maybe you're not so good in university, it doesn't matter, it's fine. But this is obviously a plus. You have to have citizenship and current residency in Iraq. If you have a US citizenship, a dual citizenship, you're not allowed to apply. You have to be Iraqi. You have to have an Iraqi passport, Iraqi citizenship, everything. And your passport has to be valid until March 2021. If your passport is not valid until then, like say passport, okay, it's not valid until you can start now until January 10. By January 10, you can still send it until 12 a.m. After that, you're not considered. You're not allowed for the program anymore. But you have time, a lot of time. You can still renew your passport. I think it takes like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I don't really know. Yeah. So you still have a bunch of time to renew your passport if it's not valid till that time. I'll be talking about it in a bit as well, but this is not the application deadline. Please don't confuse it. The application deadline is December 15, 1-5. So in 7 days, I guess.
Yes,
yes, in 7 days, in a week. Your application deadline is in a week. The passport, okay, you can send it later. Nothing else. You cannot send anything else later. And you will not be considered for the program if you have parents or you or your siblings that have applied for permanent residency or are in a refugee status in the United States. Or outside of Iraq, anywhere. So, anywhere.
So like if you have like citizenship in another country, you're not...
No, not citizenship. That's your dual citizenship.
Yeah.
So, dual citizenship for US is not allowed. Yes. But if you are in a refugee status, your parents are in a refugee status anywhere outside of Iraq, you're not considered. If your siblings are refugee status anywhere else, or like a refugee if you have applied for permanent residency. For example, my friend last year, her whole family had applied for permanent residency in Spain. She was gonna get it. Agar wouldn't get that, application deadline, she could have applied. But she hadn't gotten it yet. It was still an application process, so she couldn't apply. So, if you're applying, you're in the process of application, you are not eligible for the program. If you have been to the United States on an exchange program, so that's fine. But if it has been an exchange program, IILP, SUSI, MAPI, Fulbright, and other programs that we have, you're not eligible for the program. And for example, I'm IILP high school, I'm no longer eligible for IILP. I cannot apply for undergraduate, I cannot apply for mentor. I know people who have been on their masters on Fulbright, they cannot apply for IILP adult mentor. So any program that you have applied to and you've been part of, you can no longer apply for IILP or any of the other programs. So it's just once. You do one exchange program. If you have any immediate family members, immediate family member means father, mother, sister, brother. If any of these work in any US government agency, you're not eligible for the program. You guys all get what that means.
Yeah.
So, US Embassy, US Consulate. You will be evaluated. So this question is a very commonly asked question. Everyone asks this. How do I get evaluated? How do I know if I have a good chance of getting accepted? Your application, come in. It's okay. your application needs to be complete. كأشياء تسأل application it gives you what you have completed and what you have not completed. The very section here. Section biography, section essay, section short answer. بخوي بيت الله كلا كم sectionات شنما مثلا الله you're 98% complete or 100% complete لم sectionات كهموي complete ولا science and just submitting it. If your application is not complete, that's the first thing they check. كرات السر application أقول يكسر سري أو charter أكان charter كم ولا science به إنجا كرات السر application أقول لا science به automatically they just take it away. The exception for this is your passport. أتوقع نص passport ticket إستا أو إستا داينيت وأبي داينيت so that your application is complete. بلان passport كو أتوقع تازة كتو تاديك بيناري. That one is the exception. So like don't leave it empty. Send your passport now and then renew it and send a newer version until January 10th. So you don't leave it empty. If you leave it empty, your application will not be looked at. You have to have interest and commitment to volunteer or civic activities. So if you guys are part of the youth council, I don't know if you are all members, but if you are, this is a great civic activity, civic engagement. This is one thing you can benefit from because you work here or volunteer here, whatever you do. And also you have to have had in the past things that you've done for your community. Volunteer work or just engagement, something you've done to help your community. It doesn't have to be big, but you have to have done something to show that you're actually someone who cares about the community. If you've not done anything in your life to contribute to anyone else, then you're probably not so eligible for this program. And you have to show interest and have knowledge about the AILP themes and their relevancy to the needs of the community. So when you go to AILP, there are themes, but your themes are not in the application. For undergraduate, they're not in the application anymore. They used to be, they're not anymore. But you have to demonstrate interest in, for example, helping refugees, helping people in your community, helping youth, developing your own skills, developing your community youth skills, and things like this. And you have to show your ability that you can work cooperatively in diverse groups and tolerate the opinion of others. How do you demonstrate this? For example, you say that in the youth council, there could be a ton of different people. You know, you don't agree with each other, you don't have the same opinions. You're from different places. For example, I'm from Slemani, I work with people in Aholer, and sometimes I can be very rude to them, or they can be very rude to me, but we tolerate each other because you show cooperativeness. And then you show your ability to do this. And it helps, for example, if you have been in activities like this. For example, if you have participated in anything in your life that has consisted of different people. And diversity is not only in your race. For example, it could be age. You could, for example, the youth council is pretty diverse as far as I know. For example, it has people from university and it has people who have graduated and maybe, possibly, people from high school, I don't know. But point is, diversity can be in any form and you have to demonstrate your ability that you can work in diverse places. And you have to, of course, leadership potential. Your leadership potential can be very small. You can, for example, when I applied, this was my leadership potential for the most part. I was class representative of my school, of my classroom. This is leadership because you're representing your whole class. For example, I have a younger sister that I always help out with, and this is another form of leadership. You help your sister, you're her leader basically. You show her how to do things. And I made an organization. This was pretty big, but you don't have to have this. My point is you can have leadership potential in very small things, like class representative, you participated in an activity where you were the group leader, or something small like this. These are all leadership potentials, and don't ever underestimate the activities you have done, because they all count. And English, like I already said, proficiency. You don't have to be perfect, just enough. And then you have to have good social and communication skills. Don't be shy. Don't be perfect. So you have to be able to engage with a lot of people at one time. So like when I went to AILP, it was very weird. I was with 50 people that I didn't even know, and you have to get used to it fast, and you have to be able to communicate really well, because you're not going to enjoy it and you're not going to benefit if you're not making teamwork with other people. Of course, the program itself has worried about this. They will help you through this, but you have to have good social skills. If you're not willing to cooperate, they cannot do anything about it. And you have to have a positive attitude towards your country, community applications. So one tip I always tell everyone is don't go bashing in your essays, bashing Kurdistan, bashing Iraq, bashing the government, bashing anything that comes in your way. Oh, we cannot do anything about it. Don't say these things, because that's not true, first of all. And second of all, that's not of your advantage, because that's not what the program is about. The program wants to tell you that you're actually capable of making a change. You're actually capable of making your community better. So if you're going to go and bash everyone in your application, then if it was I would reject it. Because what the hell, man? Like, also that makes me think you're going to run away. And that's not good. And also, you have to demonstrate your commitment to the program. This is one of the most important and most key things in your application. People who ran away during the AILP program. They either went to Canada, tried to go in other places. A lot of them got jailed, got into the blacklist, got sent home, and then had their whole family in the blacklist. Not good, not fun. And if you go to, for example, even if they had gotten to Canada, if they had gotten to somewhere where they actually found the residency or the better life, they got their IELTS certificates taken away, which is the biggest achievement you can actually get from this program. Believe me that if you go anywhere with an IELTS certificate, you're a very different person. You're considered a very different person. And this goes for your masters, if you want to apply for masters. This goes for job opportunities. And you just develop a really big network, and you become an alumni of the US Consulate and US Embassy, which is extremely useful for you. And you don't want that taken away from you. And it has been extremely strict, to the point that nobody has been able to run away in the past 2-3 years, which is great. It's amazing. And the sad part is, if somebody runs away, IELTS will be shut down. So they need you, it's extremely strict, they need you to really, really prove that you're going to come back. And how do you do this? You really talk about plans that you have for when you come back. What are your plans for you to come back? Have you worked on them? Are you trying to work on them? Do you have any projects that are actually good for the community? If you're going to just say, oh, when I come back, I'm going to do a workshop, that's not demonstration that you're actually going to come back, that you actually care about the community. You guys are university students, you're very capable, or you've graduated, and there are a ton of things for you to do, a ton of things to help out with your community. So demonstrate that you really want to come back. The program overview, after you get accepted, what happens? You go, you get an interview. If you're accepted in the interview, you go and you do a visa interview. And if you're accepted in the visa interview, then you have the pre-departure orientation in Iraq. This is basically, you go, it's a small conference. All the IELTSers that were accepted go together. They tell you about what you need for the program, what to do and what not to do, how to act there, who are you going to meet, exactly what the program is going to be like. And then you need to do 4 weeks of OPAL, Online Professional and Academic Learning. OPAL is basically an online program that you have to participate in before the departure to the program. Because if you don't finish OPAL, you will be out of the program. يعني أول ما you have been accepted through everything, and then you don't do the OPAL and you get rejected. You don't get taken to the program. So the OPAL is very simple. It's an online experience where you talk about what do you think is wrong with your community, what do you want to fix, how you're going to fix it, what are your expectations for the program, what are you looking forward to, things like this, basics. And then you have a 3-day orientation workshop in the US. This is going to be in a city that's not assured yet. They still haven't decided. It changes, not every year, but every few years. And I think it's usually in Michigan, I'm not sure. But it's going to be in a city in the US. It's the orientation workshop. You get to meet all other people. It's really, really fun. And you get to meet a lot of different people. You do a lot of activities. And they tell you about the program in general. Then you have 18 days at a host university. So you go and you stay at an American university to know what the student life is like in America. What is it like to be a university student in America? This is an exchange. This is why it's called the Iraqi Young Leaders Exchange Program. Because you're exchanging your culture, you're exchanging your ideas with not only Americans, but other Iraqis. And possibly other nationalities too. For example, when I was in ILEP, I had 3 roommates. One of them was from the Caribbean island, one of them was from Britain, and one of them was from Basra, and then me. So we had like programs with Caribbean island people, we had programs with British people, and us too. And that's besides Americans. So it's a very diverse, it's very fun, but this is not always the case. You don't necessarily meet other nationalities, but the least is you meet other people from Iraq, and you meet Americans. So it's a culture exchange, it's an idea exchange, it's exchange of all types. Sorry. And then you have the closing workshop in Washington, D.C. In the closing workshop, you talk about the projects you're going to do when you come back. So they help you, they provide you, like they give you networks, you learn a lot, and you work with people from your own city. And then, when you come back to Iraq, you have 2 more weeks of OPAL. This is what were your expectations and what did it actually turn out to be, what did you learn from the program, what are your project ideas, how are you going to start working on your project, again online. And then there's the alumni conference in 2021. So, Mangi Seyd was at Mustuyek. You have the national reunion conference. PESHO, you have the regional reunion conference. The regional reunion conference is only people from Kurdistan. And عراقي كانش خلقي منطقي ناراس لبغا كوبنا خلقي كردستان لهولير كوبنا خلقي خوارا لبصرة كوبنا. And that's the regional conference. And then you have the big national conference, which is usually held in Holer. And it's either in Diva or Rotan. So it's a 4-day conference or a 3-day where you get to meet all your friends again, you catch up, you talk about projects, you talk about what you've done after the program. Basically, personal. And when is this? Your OPAL experience after acceptance and everything and the visa is from May to June 2020. Your exchange will be in July, and the alumni conference is in 2021. And where in the US? Orientation location to be determined. Like I said, we don't really know yet, it changes. You have also Washington, D.C., and then various universities across the United States. So your host university, how this works is, you go into groups of like 20 people, and had bestow a ratwa static in the United States. I was in Colorado, but I was high school, it's kind of different. But I had friends, for example, that went to Carolina. I had friends who went to Seattle, New York, things like that. And then you don't really choose this, they choose it for you. And there's no changing whatsoever. But Point is that you have various universities, so you don't know this yet. And this is the program design. Like I said, the pre-departure orientation is held in these. The north is in Hawley, central in Baghdad, south central and south Basra. And this is held before the departure, before you leave. And then your OPAL experience. And this is about the orientation workshop. Like I said, interactive program, experimental things, pictures, students. And this is what your host university will teach you. Academic programming, skills building, community service, and it gets you to explore the United States. You have cultural events and interactions with American students and families, and you could possibly have host families. This is not always the case, but in some states, the university gets shut down for a weekend, so you can no longer stay in the university for the weekend. So for those 2 days, you go to a host family. A family hosts you, you stay with this family, and you get to know what it's like to live in an American family, and they get to know what it's like to be Iraqi. One more thing, do not in your application say, I'm a Kurd, I'm not Iraqi, this is Kurdistan, this is not Iraq, that's not good for you, they're going to reject you. Because this is the Iraqi Young Leaders Exchange Program, and whether we like it or not, our passport is Iraqi, so our programs will be Iraqi. And in Washington, D.C., it's you explore Washington, closing activities, debrief, community action planning, projects, and these are just pictures. And then after you come back, you have the 2 weeks of OPAL, and then you have, you talk about your project, you keep in touch with your other ILP friends, and just a fact is that there are 2,700, over 2,700 ILP alumni in the Iraq and in the US, which is crazy. Usually you know a lot of them. So it's very easy for alumni to get in touch, and you build a really big network when you come back and you're an alumni. So in the alumni conference, it's basically check-in. It usually takes place in February, March 2021 in Erbil, like I said. And oh yes, and you have to attend these programs to have a complete program certificate. So in the US, you get a certificate. You get the ILP certificate of the 1 month. And then you have 2 more certificates. You have the regional program and you have the national alumni conference. The 3 certificates together is what the complete ILP certificate supposed to look like. If you don't attend this, you have not officially completed the program. So application. How you go is you go ilp.org/apply. You read the frequently asked questions on the website so that you don't email them or call the embassy for questions that have been asked and answered already on the website. Please do this because most of the questions that, most of the calls that the embassy receives or the emails is already answered on the website. And all the parts of the application are submitted online, and you can save your application and return to it. So you don't have to complete everything in one sitting. You can save it, you can go back to it the next day or in the next 2 days. And deadline is December 15, 2019, 7 days. You have 7 days to complete the application. Your application, these are the rules, must be in English. You cannot write it in any other language. Not one word in Kurdish, not one word in Arabic or any other language. Your application must be written by you. Do not get other people to write it for you. It's going to be obvious. They're going to reject you. I assure you, 100 million %. They will reject you because it's obvious. Again, the application reject. When you go to the interview, it's going to be obvious that it was not you. I've seen it, I saw it when I had my interview. There was a girl next to me who had literally copied her whole entire application, and it was extremely obvious. She started crying because they asked her questions about her applications that she didn't know the answer to. This might not happen to all of you, but they will know and you will get rejected. So write your application by yourself. You cannot use translators. Do not write it in Arabic and then Google translate it. It's obvious. It makes stupid grammatical mistakes. And you can't copy other applicants' answers. So here's the thing. And you cannot plagiarize. I will talk about these two together. So the thing with how they would know you actually copied from someone else or you've plagiarized is it goes through an application called Turnitin. When it goes through Turnitin, it tells you that any other applicant has written even one sentence the same way. It will tell them. And it will tell them if you have gotten anything at all from the internet. It will tell them. They will know, and you'll get rejected. So even if the application was from a bunch of years ago, it's still in the system, so they will still know. And you cannot break any of the rules because you will immediately be removed. Like I said, don't plagiarize. And in the application, just be yourself. Don't try to use bigger words than you actually know. And don't try to make it too simple so that you don't seem too intellectual. Just be yourself, how you would actually normally talk. That's how you want to write your application. And the process is basically, these are your required documents. Your most recent university transcript. If you are a first stage university student, you obviously don't have a university transcript, so you submit your 12th grade transcript. That's fine. And you need a letter of recommendation. Your letter of recommendation has to be done by either a university teacher or someone that's in a bigger position than you that can answer questions about you, knows you well enough to answer questions about you. A few simple questions, you can give it to a university teacher that really likes you and they'll write it for you. And passport, I've already explained this, by January 10, 2020, or if you already have one that's valid through March 2021. And your identification card, كارتين اجتماعي or just عراقي, no difference. Just any identification card. But not university identification card. And these will walk you through the application. I will do this one quickly because you will probably figure it out. It's easy. But I'll just show you guys so that there are less confusions. So when you go on the website, eilep.org/apply, this is what you get. And then there's your login, and there's new user here. You click on new user, and then application if you want to go back on it, you just log in. So new user. And then you fill out your name, last name, and your email, and then you do the I'm not a robot thing, and you get an email. In your email, they give you a link that will expire in 48 hours. So don't go creating your application not actually using it, because if you don't open this link and remake your password and start the application, it will expire in 48 hours, then you'd have to make another account. And that will create a bit of confusion and annoyance.
Once the account is made, it doesn't need 48 hours?
No. Once the account is made, you can use it until December 15th. So when you click this link, it tells you to change your password, and you make the new password, verify, change password. And then this is what comes to you in your first, when you first make the application. This doesn't come always. So once you choose this, when you go back on your application, there's already an application that's for undergraduate, so you don't have to choose it every time again. You go and you choose 2020 ILOP undergraduate for undergraduate students. And then this is your main page. So it's the instructions on how you should fill it out. It talks about each of the sections that are there, and you can just read it every time you are kind of confused. Once you've completed every step on your application status, this is the chart I was talking about. This is what tells you if you have completed it 100%, 98%. So when it's all green all the way, That means you have finished every section 100%. But keep in mind, don't recheck your application every once in a while to see if you have saved everything. Because this will say 100% even if you have written just one letter in your essay department. Because you've still written something. So automatically the system will think there's writing, so it's complete. So please do check it, because of course you will automatically be removed if there is nothing in your essays. And don't write it too short or too long. If it's too short, removed. Too long, not removed, but annoying to read. And you can just get to the point in less words. And after you submit your application, it will be reviewed by staff at World Learning, not me, other staff, and staff from the US Embassy and the USA. And in January, you will be told if you are selected as a semi-finalist or not. A semi-finalist is someone who's been accepted from the application process to the interview process. This doesn't mean you're completely accepted. This just means you are now headed on to the next step, which will be the interview. You will be contacted prior, you might be contacted before the answers actually come out, the finalizations. So if no one has gotten their emails about if they're accepted or not, and you get a phone call and they want to know about your documents or your application, this doesn't mean you're accepted. It just means that they are looking at your application and there might be something missing or there might be something that they're confused about that they want to ask you about. Does not mean you are accepted. Please don't take it that way. And please don't annoy other participants by telling them that you were accepted and they weren't because they didn't receive anything. After this, if you were selected, you go to an interview. Like I said, interviews usually always in Erbil in the US Embassy. And this will be by US and Iraqi staff from World Learning. So obviously interviews in English. And in March, they will tell you whether you are accepted as a finalist or an alternate. What's an alternate? Of course, if you're not selected, that's that. You are rejected. An alternate is if someone was a finalist and they decide they don't want to go or they can't go, you are an alternate and you might be chosen. But there's not just one alternate. There's a ton of alternates. So it's not also guaranteed that someone will not go and that if someone doesn't go, you're automatically going to go instead of them. But you are an alternate. There is a chance that you could go. Many people have been alternates and they have went. But usually, for the most part, alternates don't go. But you still have a chance. But anyways, a finalist is someone who's already been selected to the program. You still have the visa interview in front of you though. And the visa interview, people do actually get rejected. It's very common that people will say that no one gets rejected in the visa application, but actually a lot of people do. They get rejected from their visas because whether it is that you have lied to the embassy in your application that you have not applied for residency or that your parents have not, or you lie about having relatives in the US. It's okay to have relatives in the US. It's totally fine. It does not affect your application. But if you lie about it, that's when it will start affecting you. Because why would you lie about it unless you have a master plan? So don't lie about anything on your application, because you're automatically rejected, and it's happened many, many times to many students, and it's really sad and annoying. So if you have any questions at all, you visit ilo.org, the frequently asked questions, or further questions, you go to the email of World Learning. And this is the application link, ilo.org/apply. Even if you just go on Google and you write ILO 2020 application, it will bring you this. And the deadline is December 15, 2019. And that's it. Thank you. And, please feel free to ask your questions.